What is up, people? I hope you're doing great. Hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another video. My name is Lukhanisa Chikela. I said I'm going to be doing that more often because YouTubers do that. Yeah, man. It's time to chat about some football again. Obviously, there were games playing yesterday in the Champions League. Man City were playing Dortmund, and who else was playing? Oh, Chelsea were playing Salzburg. And then obviously the other games, but I didn't pay attention to the other games. I was just mainly looking at Chelsea versus Salzburg and Man City versus Dortmund. But obviously, before I go on the analysis and just talking about the games, I actually also want to talk about some comments from these YouTubers, especially the YouTubers in the UK. I think they do speak a lot of rubbish sometimes. But yeah, man, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, and please push that like button so that you can it also helps with the support if you push the like button, so please do so. And then please push the notification bell so that you can get notified each time I post a new video. So yeah, man, obviously the games yesterday, Man City versus Dortmund, I'll just start with that one, obviously, because that's the game I was watching because I support City. Great game. In fact, no, not a great game of football. I thought we were slow, were lethargic. Obviously we got the win, but the performance wasn't there. I don't think apart from if you watched the last 25-30 minutes of that game, you can say City deserved to win the game. But if you watch the whole game, we really didn't deserve to win the game. But Dortmund, basically, they had a great game plan because they basically told themselves that they're going to sit back, they're going to soak up all the pressure, and whenever they get the ball, they're going to try and be brave in possession, and they're going to try and attack us. And they got a few opportunities. They got a few decent half chances, and they scored through Jude Bellingham, who I thought had a good performance yesterday. Was really he was the standout player for the first 60 minutes of the game in terms of like the midfield battle. Up until when our players started to shift gears and just get onto the game, and we upped the level of intensity a little bit more. I was like screaming at the TV, like yesterday, saying like Pep should change it up. He should take either John Stones, Ake, or Akanji and put a left back. He must put Sergio Gomez in, and then Cancelo should go to right back. Now, obviously, that's the reason why Pep gets paid top dollar to be the manager at City, and I don't. Because the guys I was actually calling to be shifted, because I was calling for Stones to go at centre back and for Cancelo to go at right back, because I just thought that was going to give us a more orthodox style of play and a more mobile style of play, because John Stones at right back, like, John Stones is very good on the ball, don't get me wrong, but he is big. He is a centre back. He's not mobile. So like he can't gallop up and down the right flank like how a normal right back would do, simply because he's too big to do that. But actually, he scores the first goal to get us back into the game. Wonderful hit. And then Cancelo provides the assist for the thingy. Cancelo provides the assist for the second goal with the outside foot cross, which he wouldn't be able to do that outside foot cross if he was playing on the right. So I guess I should give credit to Pep because he only changed the wingers, and in the midfield he took Gundogan and he took Grealish and Mahrez off, and then he put on Foden, Alvarez, Julian Alvarez, and Bernardo Silva. And I think as soon as those guys went in, they just gave us more intensity. There was more pressing about us. There was just like, in that first half, we were lethargic, man. It looked like we were off the pace. We didn't press well enough, like how we normally do. And there was just no intensity to our game. Apologize for that. My niece is right next to me again. So I apologize if you hear her kind of like mumbling and stuff. But like, I just thought like Pep summed it up perfectly at full time when he had his press conference or his post-match interview. And he said, today we played at the wrong gear. Yes, we won the game, but we played at the wrong gear. And I think that just summed it up perfectly. We were too slow. The pace of our play and the pace of our build-up was just too slow. And as a result, because Dortmund were pretty much playing a 4-5-1 formation, and then like when they didn't have the ball, they went to a back five. So it was very difficult to create chances, and they tried to overload the midfield so that they deny spaces for De Bruyne and Gundogan, which those are basically two of our most creative players. Our two number 8, those are the guys that normally feed Haaland those balls in behind. So Dortmund basically said, you know what, we're going to sit back so that we don't give Haaland a chance to go behind us because we know his pace. And then they basically flooded the midfield so that De Bruyne and Gundogan don't get into the ball. Because if those guys don't get in the ball, then it's very difficult for City to create any chances. So I thought it was a good game plan from Dortmund, but nevertheless we played at we played too slow, and that's why we struggled to create anything from the game. I thought Grealish was a 6 out of 10. I wouldn't say he was below par, as in he was poor, because poor basically means under 5 out of 10. But I think he didn't create really anything. He had a few chances cutting into his left foot. I just want to see Jack Grealish kind of trusting in his left foot as well. Like, instead of cutting inside his right foot all the time, going down to the byline and just trying to fizz a ball with his left foot into the box. Because you never know, when you have a striker, you never know what might come off you just putting a cross into the box. Even if it's not a good cross, great strikers make a poor cross look like a good cross. So I just want to see more of that from Jack Grealish, kind of backing himself and going down to the byline more instead of just cutting inside all the time. And I thought Mahrez was pretty much the same as Grealish, whereby they were just trying to cut inside too many times and they were not committing the defenders and going to the byline. But in another part, I kind of understand it, because a lot of the time they were up against two players, because Dortmund were playing a back 5 and the midfielders were also tucking in, trying to help out those wing backs when they didn't have the ball. So I just thought it was a good tactic from the coach from Dortmund. He had a good game plan in terms of how he was going to try and upset Manchester City and try and frustrate Manchester City, and I thought it worked for 70 minutes until we scored the goal. In fact, it worked for 80 minutes because we only scored the goal at the 80th minute. So I just thought, but like in a game when you play against a quality opposition like Manchester City, if you think you're just gonna sit back and hold on to a 1-goal lead for 90 minutes, you have another thing coming, simply because they're not going to go away. They're going to keep pressurizing you. They're going to, your concentration levels are going to be challenged up to a T, simply because they're going to keep attacking you. And there will be one moment of a lapse in concentration and they're going to pounce on it. Like, you could say it's a great strike from John Stones, but no one is pressing him and he has all the time to take a touch and then to shoot. And then that's how we score the first goal. And then all of a sudden, the crowd comes back into the game. And then it's a different game. And Dortmund are just trying to scramble. And they're trying to scrape for a draw. And then ultimately, we score through Haaland, the winner. Which is a great goal, by the way. Because it's actually the goal of the week for this week's games in the Champions League. Simply because that cross from Cancelo with the outside foot was simply just exquisite. And then the finish from Haaland, it's kind of like an acrobatic finish whereby he just jumps. It's great athleticism from him. We all know Haaland is a great athlete, but I thought it was a great goal from Cancelo. But yeah, man, I just thought we weren't good enough yesterday. Even though we won the game, our performance was not good enough, and we probably didn't deserve to win. But that's what happens when you have top players. Sometimes you play bad and you win still. And what I was saying at the beginning of the video, saying that these YouTubers like spewing a lot of rubbish and a lot of nonsense. I was listening to these guys, like there's a guy called Grizz Khan and Boovie. Boovie's a Manchester City fan, and Grizz Khan is a thingy. He's a Liverpool fan. Now, the reason why I'm saying they're spewing a load of rubbish is because, like, they're saying, like, this guy Grizz Khan is saying that he worries for Manchester City because it looks like they're not controlling games because they have Haaland. Yes, they're winning games, but they're not controlling games. And that's not something that happened last year. Now, I don't know what he was watching last year in terms of last season, but there were plenty of games last year where we didn't control the game and we actually lost. Like, they're making a big deal of the fact that, because Boovie was saying, you can't have 73% possession in the game and then don't win it and draw it 1-1. And then he was basically making a reference to the Aston Villa game, because we had 73% possession in that Aston Villa game, yet we still drew 1-1. But the reason why I'm saying it's a lot of rubbish is because they act like Manchester City have been this immortal team that has been steamrolling past everyone in these past few seasons, and that's not the case. Last season, we lost to Crystal Palace, even though we had over 60% possession and they had less than 40% possession against us. They beat us 2-0. We drew against Southampton home and away, even though we had over 60% possession in both those games, and they had less than 40% possession. We then drew against Crystal Palace again at Selhurst Park, even though we had the majority of the possession, and there was no Haaland. So this control that they're talking about, that we've lost it now that we've got Haaland and that's a worry, I don't get what it means. Because actually, if you compare and contrast our start to last season versus the start of this season, by this time last season, we had already lost a game, because we lost on the opening day. We lost against Spurs, and then we lost against Crystal Palace as well. Now, obviously, we also played Chelsea in our first 7 games last year, even though we did win that game. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that it's a lot of nonsense that Manchester City have lost control by playing Haaland, and therefore that doesn't make them as good as they are. Simply because I've seen games going back to last season, games where we played with a false 9 and we never had control. Aston Villa, last game of the season last year, when we basically almost lost the title on the final day. We played with a false 9, yet we didn't control the game. We had all the possession, yet we were 2-0 down at one point. And the other game was obviously Spurs. We played against Spurs at the Etihad as well. Controlled the majority of the game in terms of possession stats, yet we still lost. And we played with a false 9. We played with all the control that they're referring to. So I don't get this. I think it's really a load of nonsense that Manchester City, with Haaland in the team, that kind of makes them a little bit more, like, it weakens them because they don't get control as much. Now, like, what I'm trying to say is that I don't see how that is relevant, because I don't care how much Haaland gets involved in the game. If Haaland has one touch for the whole game and scores the winner, that's all I care about. We won the game. Whether he was involved in the game or whatnot, doesn't matter. And yesterday, actually, Haaland was probably the best performer in the team before we scored that goal through John Stones, because he was the one who looked like he had a spark before Foden, Bernardo Silva and Julian Alvarez came onto the pitch. He was the only one who looked like he was going to do something, because De Bruyne was off it, Gundogan was off it, mainly because they had no spaces to operate in, simply because Dortmund overloaded the midfield, and therefore that prevented spaces for Kevin De Bruyne and Ilkay Gundogan in the midfield. So I just think people are just spewing a lot of nonsense. There's YouTubers from the UK. I would love to have a debate with them, because I just think sometimes people make invalid arguments, because you can't advance an argument that Manchester City are struggling with controlling the game and that might hurt them this season, whereas exactly the same thing happened last season. So I don't get where that is coming from, to be honest. I do want us to play better. I'm not saying we played well in that game against Dortmund yesterday. We didn't play well for the first 80 minutes of that game. Like, we didn't create anything of any cutting edge in the game, and we were deservedly behind Dortmund for the first 80 minutes of that game. So obviously I want us to improve in terms of our performance, because I think it was not good enough yesterday. Our performance, that is. Let me just have a sip of water. So like, our performance was not good enough for the first 75-80 minutes of that game, and we need to improve. So like, I agree with the fact that, like, because I saw this reporter who's a Manchester City correspondent for The Athletic, Sam Lee. He was saying that, like, we can't keep doing it this way. We can't keep going behind and then hoping that Haaland is going to save us. And I agree with him. We need to control the game more. And I would like to see, like, us playing a consistent back four. Like, we're chopping and changing our back four so much. Yes, we have good players. We have good defenders who know how to play football. But it's important to get repetition at the back. Like, to kind of make sure that you build that partnership. Obviously, I'm not saying that guys like Ake or Akanji should not be given chances. Yes, they should be given chances, especially in these Champions League games where we're playing against lesser opposition, if you like. And even if we concede a goal, we could still probably win the game. But I would like us to kind of have that solid partnership at the back. Obviously, Diaz was just given a rest yesterday because I'm pretty sure he is going to start against Wolves. But I do want us to get like more repetition at the back so that we can kind of show up our defensive line. Obviously, Walker at this moment in time is also injured. And we're going to go to the international break, so there's no football next week. It's only going to be the internationals that are playing next week. So we're going to get football. After this weekend, we're going to be getting football in 2 weeks' time because next week and next week, midweek, it's not playing. It's only going to come back on that weekend of the 1st of October. I think it's the 2nd of October on Sunday. And we play Manchester United on that 2nd of October. That's probably why I remember it. It's going to be the derby. Haaland's first Manchester derby. And basically from that period up until the 12th of November, we're going to be playing game after game after game. There's no international break. It's going to be Champions League, Premier League, and the FA Cup is going to start as well, and the Carabao Cup is going to start as well. So I would like us to kind of like get into gear and get into rhythm and start playing like a consistent backline. Obviously, all we can hope for during the international break is that we don't get any injuries, especially to key players like Haaland, De Bruyne, Gundogan, Foden, Mahrez, Grealish, Julian Alvarez. Actually, I'm not sure if Julian Alvarez is going to be playing because it's the UEFA Nations League that's going to be playing, and it's the European teams that play in the UEFA Nations League. Julian Alvarez is Argentinian, obviously. But all we can hope for is that we don't get any injuries during the upcoming international break. And then also we can hope for the fact that Walker, by the time we get into that weekend when we're going to play Man United, Walker is going to be back in contention for to be in the team. I think Laporte as well is going to be back in contention for that game against Manchester United because he's already back in full training at this moment in time. Just that he's not, like, obviously he only came back this week to full training, so that's why he wasn't in the squad against Dortmund, and he's probably not going to be in the squad against Wolves because Pep wants to give him time to get his fitness back and to get up to peak fitness so that he can then start playing at a high level. So all we can hope for is that we don't get any fresh injuries during the international break, and then that Walker is going to be back from his from his slight knock that he suffered against Aston Villa. So yeah, man, I just think there are certain games so far this season where we haven't played well. Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Dortmund. I thought against Aston Villa we just didn't have a cutting edge really going forward. I don't think we played bad in terms of a lack of intensity like how we did against Dortmund, just that we didn't have any cutting edge. So yeah, man, I just think we need to improve on our performances because we can't keep on doing this. Like, obviously we've got great players who can change a game through one moment of brilliance. As it showed yesterday, John Stones and Cancelo coming up with the goods. That Cancelo cross for Haaland, and then the ball is begging to be finished really. Then Haaland finishes it as you would expect. So we have top players who can bail us out of situations, but we need to start playing well. But I'm not worried because we're still undefeated. We've played 8 games so far this season, 6 games in the Premier League. I'm not counting the Community Shield game. We've played 6 games in the Premier League. We've played 2 games in the Champions League. We've won 6 and we've drawn 2. That's not a bad start, in my opinion, because out of the 24 points available, we have 18. So for me, that's not That's not actually no. We have 21, not 18, right? Yeah, we got 21. Yes, because we played 8 games, right? Yeah, we played 6 games in the Premier League, and we've played. Have we played 8 games? I think so. We played 8 games. We played 8 games, 6 games in the Prem, and 2 games in the Champions League, I think. Yeah, and we've won 6, which is 18 points. No, yeah, it's 18 points. But no, man, if we get 18 points out of 24, then that means we've dropped 6. We haven't dropped 6 points. We've only dropped 4 points because we've drawn 2 games. So we've probably played 9 games then, right? Yeah, I think so. I think we played 9 games, 7 games in the Prem, and 2 games in the Champions League, right? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. The math is just lacking. In fact, it's not the math that's lacking. I'm just not sure in terms of the amount of games we've played, because we've only dropped 4 points, and we've won 4 games in the Premier League, though, man. I think. In fact, it doesn't matter. But we're still undefeated in the Premier League. And that's a good thing in my opinion, because we usually start the season slowly. Like last season, at this point, after playing 2 games in the Champions League and playing roughly 6, 7 games in the Premier League, we had already lost against Tottenham, PSG, and Crystal Palace, if I'm not mistaken, and drawn against Southampton. So for me, it's not a worry that we like at times not really playing well, because it's going to click into gear once the lads start like getting their fitness levels to peak. Once they start getting that rhythm and that flow, I think it's gonna be very difficult to stop us. I think it's an ominous sight for everyone that we haven't been playing well, but Haaland is already has 12 goals in his first 8 games at City, or 7 games at City. So he's already into double figures for the season. And there's a Chelsea fan actually called Rory Jennings. Again, another thing about these UK YouTubers are spewing a load of nonsense. He basically said Haaland would do great if he gets to 15 goals this season. So basically, he wasn't backing Haaland to get 15 goals this season. He already has 12. And we actually haven't even played we're not even into double figures in terms of the number of games played. Yeah, man. But again, everyone is entitled to their opinion, even though it might be a lot of rubbish. But yeah, man, I think yeah, we will improve on our performances. If like one thing I know about Pep Guardiola, he's never gonna let the lads off the hook. So he's never gonna say because we won, he's never not gonna dig out the lads for a bad performance. Yeah, man, that's the great thing about elite coaches, and that they're always in search for perfection. So if you drop below those standards, even if you win, he's gonna make you know about it, and that helps you not get complacent. Because sometimes people get complacent because they play bad and they win and they think they're immortal. So that's when you need that leader, who's your coach, to tell you that no, bruh, you're not that good and you didn't play well, so you need to improve. That's really important. So yeah, man. I think good game. Yes, in fact, not a good game really. Good game. Last 30 minutes, but it was a slow game for the majority of the game. But yeah, man. The other game obviously was between Chelsea and Salzburg. I didn't really watch the game. But yeah, man, Chelsea. There was just, I think, a lot more effort from Chelsea, a lot more desire, pressing, a lot more fluidity in the team. Because basically Graham Potter set up like a back four, but then I think out of possession they were playing a back three. I didn't watch the game, so I don't know what actually happened in the game tactically. I don't know how he played, but I did listen to his post-match interview saying that he was playing a back three as far as he was concerned. As he was concerned, because he was asked that like what was the formation that he was playing, and he was saying it's a back three. I think he was playing a back four in possession and a back three out of possession. Yeah, man. So like Potter is a coach who loves tactics and stuff like that and coaching. So I think that's what he was doing. But yeah, man, I think good goal from Sterling. Yeah, Salzburg came back into the game. I thought it was poor defending from Thiago Silva because he basically attempted a sliding tackle, and he got the ball, but then his tackle wasn't strong enough. So even though he got the ball, he gave the Leipzig player, the Salzburg player, a chance to get the ball again. And then that's how they scored. And he couldn't then make another tackle because it was already on the ground. So his tackle wasn't strong enough. And then that led to Salzburg's goal. But yeah, I didn't think it was an atrocious performance from Chelsea, like how they were against Leeds United or how they were against Southampton. There was a lot more desire, a lot more fluidity, a lot more intent from them. They created a lot of chances, but they were inefficient, because I think they had 18 shots and only 4 on target, or 17 shots, and only 4 on target. So again, that efficiency up top that they've been struggling with for a long time now. they were still struggling with that a little bit yesterday. But obviously, it's Graham Potter's first game. He's still like the players are still getting used to him, and he's still getting used to the players because he only took over last week. So yeah, man, I think this is going to be a great time for Graham Potter because he's not playing this weekend. The Chelsea Liverpool game that was scheduled to play this weekend has been postponed because of the funeral arrangements of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. Yeah, Chelsea are not going to be playing this weekend, so that means Graham Potter has today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday to have his players on the training pitch, drilling his players, drilling his tactics on the players, trying to make them understand what he wants from them. And then obviously the majority of the Chelsea players are going to go to the international break because it's a team full of internationals. And then obviously when he comes back, he's going to pick up where he left off, and he's going to try and drill his players. So I think it's going to be a valuable 4 days for Graham Potter, where he's not going to be playing to kind of drill his players before the international break. Because after the international break, he's going to struggle to find time on the training pitch because the game are going to be coming thick and fast, playing every 3 days. Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup. So it's going to be a really difficult period. So I think he's going to utilize these days really well and try to drill, and he's going to try and drill his players in terms of the tactics and trying to make them understand the style of play of the team, like the style of play that he wants to implement in the team. But yeah, man, I think I still back Potter, and I'm certainly not gonna judge him based on how he did in his first game. Obviously, some people have some concerns about Chelsea because they do sit bottom of their group in the Champions League. They only have 1 point from a possible 6 because they lost their opening game and then they've drawn this one. But I wouldn't be worried if I was a Chelsea fan. I think there's still 4 games left. Match week 3, 4, 5, 6. And they have enough, man, to kind of get a result and at least finish second in the group so that they can progress to the round of 16. So I wouldn't be concerned if I was a Chelsea fan. I think it would be really bad if they didn't qualify for the knockout stages. It would be really bad, but I just don't think that's gonna happen. So yeah, man, I think there's gonna be some good games. Obviously, I'm gonna be previewing the games for the weekend tomorrow. Yeah, man, I'm gonna do Man City against Wolves. And then, obviously, as I already said, I'm not going to be talking about Chelsea and Liverpool because they're not playing. Their game has been postponed. And then I'm going to do Arsenal. I think Arsenal are playing. I think Spurs, are they playing? I'm going to have to check it again, man, because there's been quite a few changes with regards to the fixtures this weekend because of the funeral arrangement of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. And if you're wondering why are there postponements because of Queen Elizabeth's funeral, like why are games being postponed because of that, is because the majority of the police force in the UK is going to be in the funeral thing. Like, obviously, there's a lot of, you've seen on Sky Sports News or on YouTube or in the major news channel of the UK that there's quite a lot of processes that have to be done before the Queen is buried. Like, her coffin needs to go to different places, and it needs to go to certain churches and stuff like that. It's all about tradition and the UK tradition with regards to the royal family. And there's the majority of the police force in England is in that whole process basically because there needs to be like the police force needs to be kind of making sure that it's like nothing happens in terms of no mercenaries come and steal Queen Elizabeth's coffin or stuff like that. I'm just making an example there. So that's why some games have been postponed, because there's simply not going to be enough policemen or police women that are going to be able to be present in the games, because there needs to be police presence in the game so that the fans don't start to become barbaric and like stab each other or like kind of fight one another and like English fans are crazy, and I'm sure you're gonna understand this. Like they really love their football. I love my football, but like it doesn't compare to the UK fans. Like they really they love their football. So and they obviously there's debates among football fans and stuff like that, and those debates can lead to fights. in some occasions. So that's why it's very important for a police presence to exist in football games, especially big games between the top teams, like the Chelsea game versus Liverpool. So that's why that game has been postponed, basically. But yeah, man. That brings us to the end of the video. I've obviously mentioned the games I played yesterday. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow when I'm previewing the games for the Premier League weekend just before the international break. If you haven't done so, guys, please subscribe to the channel and please push the notification bell so that you can get notified each time I post a new video. And please push that thumbs up button to like the videos. If you like the content, it really massively helps as well. And yeah, man, my name is Lukan Chichikela, and thank you for watching the video, guys. I really appreciate the support, and yeah, keep supporting the channel. And yeah, man, appreciate the support. Have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow, man. Thank you for watching.